Welcome to worship at the Unitarian Universalist Church of Charlotte.
Today we celebrate the coming together of generations.
And as we do, let us remember the words of Sarah Morse Campbell. Give us the spirit of the child who is not afraid to need and who is not afraid to love.
And the words of Toni Morrison, if we don't keep in touch with the ancestor, we are in fact lost.
Today we celebrate, for we believe in life and in the strength of love, and we have found a time to be together.
Welcome members, welcome guests, welcome all.
May it spark in each of us connection and commitment to this living tradition of Unitarian Universalism and to each other.
we want to share with you a few excerpts from Unitarian Universalist liturgy, which means that we want to share with you pieces of the ideas and words that Unitarian Universalists speak in community to mark rites of passage in our shared lives. When we have a family dedication as part of a worship service, parents stand before the congregation and speak aloud a covenant of love to their children. And then the congregation speaks aloud a commitment to the children and the families standing before us. And this is an excerpt of a dedication from the back of our gray hymnal, written by Rob Eller Isaacs. These are the words that the congregation speaks to the families. We dedicate our minds and hearts to these children and to their parents. We will love and cherish them always. May we be worthy guardians of these young lives. May we build a community in which these children will grow old, surrounded by beauty, embraced by love, and cradled in the arms of peace.
And this is an excerpt from words that our congregation speaks aloud during the family dedications that we hold here. We, the members of the Unitarian Universalist Church of Charlotte, join with you parents as spiritual guardians of these young lives. We covenant to support you, to encourage you, and to assist you in the vital, challenging, and wonder-filled roles as parents. We commit to continue building a community of trust and respect where your children will be welcomed, encouraged, accepted for who they are, and encouraged to grow and mature spiritually. We will hold before you and your children the shared values of this congregation and will seek to embody those ideals in lives of justice, equity, beauty, and peace. As many of you here may have noticed, the children of the families that we covenant with in a family dedication eventually grow up. And when they are preparing to finish in high school, we have what Unitarian Universalists call a bridging ceremony, which recognizes the transition from youth to young adulthood. This is an excerpt from the blessing that we as a congregation give to those emerging adults as part of our bridging ceremony. You have been a part of us. You will continue to be a part of us always. As we release you now to the journey that lies ahead for each of you, we continue to call you to be true to the highest values which we have shared with you here.
Unitarian Universalists also have liturgy that honors those who came before us, which congregations share in periodically, but we do especially on Memorial Sunday here in late fall. And this is an excerpt from the back of our gray hymnal called "They Are With Us Still" by Kathleen McTeague. It is right to remember the names of those who gave us strength in this choice of living. We share a history with those lives. We belong to the same motion. They too were strengthened by what had gone before. They too were drawn on by the vision of what might come to be. The lives they lived hold us steady. Their courage and love evoke our own. We take them with us, as with them we choose the deeper path of living.
Oh,
You may have noticed this week, some of you, that one of our members posted an article on our closed member Facebook page called "Choosing a Stubborn Love: Why I Returned to My Mostly White Unitarian Universalist Congregation." Michael Hornsby, the author of the article, shared the experience of discovering his congregation for the first time. He writes, "It seemed my family had found a spiritual home, and we wasted no time becoming active in congregational life. We scooped ice cream, organized potluck dinners, helped set up the annual Halloween party, served as greeters and ushers and service leaders, and co-facilitating the beloved Conversations workshop." Hornsby's abiding commitment continues for years, leading to his eventual election to his congregation's board of trustees. Yet, Hornsby shares that nevertheless, "I was never allowed to forget that I was an outsider. There were several occasions when white people seemed to think I might be amused by a joke about my skin color or about Black Lives Matter. One white woman joked in my daughter's presence that I scared her. There were even times when white people would start a conversation about race with me before even saying good morning." After years of relentlessly being shown in word and in action that he was an outsider, Hornsby left his congregation. And after a time of searching and reflection over a year of distance and prayer, he concludes, "First and foremost, I am a Unitarian Universalist. I explored other churches in the area, but I am only truly comfortable following Unitarian Universalist principles. No other religion was a good fit for my spiritual needs. For me, I truly aspire to be more loving in my heart, so I will go back and try again. My UU beliefs will not be so easily abandoned." The way I interpreted Hornsby's article, he came back to his Unitarian Universalist congregation because he felt deeply connected to the part of our faith that goes beyond individual wants and personal searches for truth. Connected to something about our faith that white people cannot own or interpret or welcome others into exclusively. As Hornsby said, "I am only truly comfortable following UU principles." But he lists one more reason why his stubborn love took him back to his congregation. In his words, "I need human, in-person connection to look people in the eye, shake hands, and give and receive friendly embraces." The pain and the beauty of Michael Hornsby's commitment both strike me. The pain, of course, is that Hornsby is kept at arm's length from the heart of the community he loves. He finds himself predominantly in the company of white people who don't want to make room for his full humanity if it means looking a long time in the mirror. What a painful way to experience a community that you belong to. The overwhelmingly beautiful and courageous and compassionate thing is that he stays and continues to give and love for the sake of something larger than his individual experience. What a way to live our faith. I think many of us are drawn to Unitarian Universalism because of the individual search for truth and meaning that we hold so dear. But for those of us who stay in this faith, I don't think that it's primarily that individual search that keeps us coming back. Perhaps that something more than our individual experience is what's called our living tradition. You may have noticed earlier when we picked up our gray hymnals to sing that I didn't coin that phrase. It's been used to refer to Unitarian Universalism for quite some time, hence our singing in the living tradition. But typically we talk about being a living tradition because we are a religion without a creed. And the way we approach our ultimate truths is expected to evolve over time. In fact, very little about our faith is fixed or written in permanent ink. With all this flexibility and change, how exactly does our shared sense of what matters most get passed down? Through people, of course. Through writing and books, but also through relationships and conversations, through meetings, through congregations singing songs together. In this more literal sense of the living tradition, our faith is passed down by living human beings from generation to generation. Of course, the experience of living this faith in community isn't passed down from the oldest generation to the youngest generation and so forth in a neat and tidy fashion. It's more that our faith is constantly passed between and among generations as it's handed down. All of us in this congregation, regardless of our age, share a history with the lives that were here before us. We belong to the same motion. It's true that we pass on our fear and our bias and our egos and our need to be right. But the living tradition is that something more than our individual experience. It's what we pass down when we aren't thinking of ourselves alone, when we aren't putting ourselves above another. It's when we lift up our relatedness most profoundly that we pass along truths that have a life of their own. Growing up in a Unitarian Universalist congregation, I understood the truths that are most alive for us to be that there is promise, there is possibility in every human soul, regardless of anyone's actions or inactions. Love is not a limited resource saved for one group over another. And the work to make the world as it should be won't end with us, but it's ours to do. No one spelled out Unitarian Universalist history or theology for me until I read about it in seminary. Our faith was passed to me by the people in my community, through relationships and conversations and singing songs together on Sunday morning. Our faith was handed down to me while playing on my congregation's softball team when I was 7 with Oliver, who was in his 80s, who commiserated with me as we both inevitably struck out again and again at every game. Myrna, who was a stand-in grandmother for our congregation's children, bringing cakes or pies to potluck with this huge sign that said, "Children only." Barb and Chris, who were the coolest 20 and 30-somethings I could imagine. Barb with her combat boots, and Chris with his in-depth knowledge of David Bowie. How they sat with my youth group multiple times a week, listening to us figure out who we wanted to be and how we wanted to change the world. And even the Saturday work parties that my parents dragged me to, and in retrospect, I enjoyed, where we would weed and plant around the congregational grounds, and then people of all ages eat pizza together. As a kid, I learned our faith by watching adults live it. And more as an adult, I learn our faith by watching our kids and youth live it. We can read about Unitarian Universalist history and theology in books and resonate with it. We can read about people who lived our faith a long time ago or who live it hundreds of miles away from us. But I agree with Michael Hornsby. I need human, in-person connection to look people in the eye, to shake hands, and give and receive friendly embraces. Because it isn't only our ultimate truths that we want to pass down, it's also the experience of the community that lives by them. It's that experience of community that we want our children and their children's children to have long after we are gone. As we say together in our family dedication ceremony, we will hold before you and your children the shared values of this congregation and will seek to embody those ideals in the lives we live. And our prayer is that we may build a community in which our children grow old, surrounded by beauty, embraced by love, and cradled in the arms of peace. Our living tradition is that something more than our individual experience. It's the ultimate truths and shared experience we pass down when we aren't thinking of ourselves alone. Kathleen and I have had our minds on the living tradition this summer as we began thinking about what it might be like to start a family ministry here. We want to offer programming and worship and events that will invite families to discover deeper spiritual meaning collectively as a family. We want to provide opportunities for families to explore how to claim their role in the work of societal and environmental transformation. We want to provide times for families to build better community with one another and the congregation as a whole. Not parents, caregivers, grandparents experiencing congregational life in one place and children and youth in another, but all together. And we are inviting everyone into this joyful work of building a family ministry here, whether or not you hear that phrase family ministry and think, that applies to me, we need you. Because one person, one generation, one segment of our congregation can't carry our living tradition alone. It's in our coming together that we keep our faith alive. A faith that reminds us that there is promise, there is possibility in every human soul. That love is not a limited resource saved for one group over another. And the work to make the world as it should be will not end with us, but it is ours to do. We need all of us, because it's not only our ultimate truths we want to pass down, but the experience of a community that lives them. Blessed be. Amen.
Welcome to today's service. Whether you're in this room, in the alternative worship space down in the Bernstein room, watching this service by way of live stream, or viewing an archive video of this service, we're honored to have guests with us here today. Our members would like to greet you after the service. So that we may do this, could you raise your hand and keep it up for a minute? Wonderful. Members, please take note of where they are. And after the service, if you can invite them to join you for coffee and fellowship over in Freeman Hall. We're glad you're here. Should it enhance your experience of future services, you can find a large print order of service or personal hearing-assisted devices on the table at the entrance to Freeman Hall before the service. If you'd like to learn more about us, please fill out one of the yellow cards and place your completed card in an offering basket when they're passed around later in the service. Members with a life event that they wish to share can put those on the reverse side of the card. You'll find the cards along with offering envelopes on the clipboards at the end of each service. If you could please start passing them down the rows now. Some returning visitors may be interested in hearing about how to become a member. If so, you are welcome to talk with our membership coordinator, Kelly Green. Hi, Kelly. Her contact information is on the back of your order of service. Again, to each of you, welcome. In my work as Director of Religious Education for the children and youth of this congregation, I rarely get the opportunity to engage deeply with those children and youth. Because ours is a large program, I spend most of my time managing the adults who get that privilege and providing them with the resources that they need. One of the primary exceptions is my involvement with our congregation's Coming of Age program, an 8-month program that helps our high school youth consider the big questions. What are my gifts? What does it mean to be a meaning maker? What values are most important to me? How is my identity as a Unitarian Universalist lived out in my world? And ultimately, to what do I give my heart? Perhaps my favorite part of the Coming of Age program is the retreats, because as with most immersion experiences, everyone gets to know each other a little bit deeper and feels more comfortable sharing. One of the first workshops that we have at the fall retreat is on family. And a central part of that is a letter that we request parents to write to their teen in advance about their child's beginnings. What the parents share is from their perspective, and it can begin before their child's birth, or it can focus on the child's entry into the family. I've led this particular workshop at least a dozen times, and I am still incredibly moved by the reactions that these letters evoke in the youth. After silently reading what often end up being multi-page missives, the youth are given an opportunity to share. There is laughter, there are tears, and sometimes they're at the same time. Not every story is light and wonder, but every single letter is an expression of deep, deep love. With rare exceptions, most of the details in these letters, including the emotional impact, are new to the youth. And if not for the request to write the letters, they might never hear them. During these retreats, I hear firsthand the cry for family connections. How many times in the intimacy of these weekends have I heard emotionally laden comments like, "I love my mom so much, but I don't treat her like that. I want to tell her she's the most amazing person in the world. I don't know how to do it. I don't know when to do it. This is what family ministry is about, providing the space and the opportunities for conversations like that, for helping parents and their children connect at a deeper level. When Eve first presented the idea to me of co-leading this minister, I was overwhelmed with gratitude and excitement. This is something we have been missing for so long. I was so excited when she came to me. So, what will this new concept of family ministry look like in action? What will make it different from what we've been doing all along? One thing we don't want to do is add more to the incredibly busy lives of our parents. Our goal is to feed their spirits, not to deplete them. In her beautifully written introductory piece to family ministry, my colleague Eve asked these questions. What would it be like to bring families together who are preparing for their child to leave home, or who are preparing to welcome an additional child into the family, or families who simply want to make more intentional time to explore what matters most to them? Families might share their hopes and fears with other families and engage in worship that helps them hold all of what they are feeling. Families might explore how to make holiday traditions more their own, or come together to take part in interactive experiences in the larger Charlotte community. We aren't sure yet what our family ministry will look like here, which is why we're inviting everyone, anyone, to please join us after this service for a discussion on this new ministry. We would love for everyone to take part. Even if you're like my age and your kids are no longer in the household, you might have some excellent ideas on what we can do. So we welcome all of you. And I hope you're even half as excited as Eve and I are about this new opportunity.
Welcome again. If you're looking for ways to get to know the people seated around you better today, or opportunities to learn something new, or learn something old in a new way, or if you're looking for ways to grow spiritually, we have all of the above opportunities for you. You can read more in your order of service, you can explore our website, or subscribe to our weekly e-newsletter, Currents. I'll highlight a few items. The first is that our first Cultural Justice Speaker Series starts this Monday, September 24th, tomorrow. The speaker series we will be offering this year are another opportunity to learn more about the particular systemic injustices that affect our community. The series that starts tomorrow will focus on the LGBTQ community with presenters from the Time Out Youth Center. And we ask that you sign up in advance for this series so we can set up the room to make everyone most comfortable. And as you heard multiple times, we're in the midst of creating a family ministry here. And we actually aren't going to have a receiving line after the service today. If you need to go, you need to go. But we would love for you to stay and have a conversation with Kathleen and me about what that might look like. And also we have childcare available if you want it for that, but all ages are welcome. There is so much to hold in our hearts and minds when we think of the wider world and our local community. We pause to send love beyond these walls. And we pause to send love to those in our congregation who find themselves in a time of worry, loss, illness. We send our love to those in our congregation who find themselves in a time of joy. We celebrate with Bob and Lee Ann Bushorn upon the birth of their new granddaughter, Tilly. There is something in particular you are carrying today, something that you want to share in a way with this congregation. You can come forward and in silence light a candle while the music is playing and the offering baskets are being passed in a little bit. And whatever joy or sorrow you're carrying in your heart, may you feel held by this community. Would you be with me now in a time of meditation and aspiration? Breathing deeply, maybe the most deeply you've breathed all day. Letting your shoulders relax down from your ears. And hearing these words by Jill Beth Veronica Sweeney. Take care of your home, your remarkable body. It needs blueberries, brisk walks, and back rubs. Take care of your home, your mind and soul. It craves stillness, friendship, a pile of books by the bed. Take care of your home, the roof over your head. It asks to be filled with music and candlelight, to be free from cobwebs and shadows. Take care of your home, your community. It expects you to protect the weak, to visit the lonely, to love the children. Take care of your home, the earth. It cries out for abundant green forests, clear blue waters, and peace. Amen.
The poet Maya Angelou once said, "I have found that among its other benefits, giving liberates the giver." Actually, it liberates the soul of the giver. Make sure I get that line right, because my next line is, I invite you now to liberate your soul. To feel that spiritual power that comes from sharing your abundance with a place that is committed to personal and societal transformation. Ushers, please take the offering. I invite you now to rise in body or spirit and join me in an affirmation of our faith. We are here dedicated to the proposition that beneath all our differences, behind all our diversity, there is a unity that binds us forever together, in spite of time and death and the space between the stars. We pause in silent witness to that unity.
These words are adapted from Robert Weston. May we accept and embrace the mystery of life we hold now, without mourning that it outgrows each separate self, but rejoicing that we share in this day. Please be seated.